The past is unchangeable. We can't go back in time to do things differently. But what if we could? Here are some crazy alternate history questions that will blow your mind. Number 20. What if the Library of Alexandria survived? The Great Library of Alexandria was one of the largest collections of knowledge in the ancient world. It had over 500,000 scrolls. But the library burned down in a series of unfortunate events, destroying a massive amount of historical knowledge. But what if it didn't? What if all of those scrolls survived until today? How would our world be different? Some historians estimate that the loss of the Library of Alexandria set human knowledge back around 1,000 years. That's because so many great works of literature and science were destroyed in the fire. How would our world be different if all of that knowledge wasn't lost? First of all, we might have discovered electricity, flight, and medicine centuries earlier than we did. We also might have understood the world around us much sooner. It's hard to imagine how far ahead humanity would be if all of those ancient texts hadn't been lost forever. But one thing is for sure, we'd be living in a very different world. Number 19. What if Napoleon conquered Russia? Napoleon once led a grand army of over 600,000 men into Russia. His goal was simple: defeat Tsar Alexander I and bring Russia under French control. But Napoleon's army got bogged down in Russia, and eventually his entire force was decimated by cold, hunger, disease, and the Russian army. So while Napoleon failed, what if he had succeeded? What if Napoleon had defeated Russia and put the whole country under French control? It's likely that most of Europe would have fallen to Napoleon, and France would have become the dominant power in the world for at least a century. Number 18. What if World War I never happened? World War I was one of the deadliest conflicts in human history. It led to the collapse of 3 major empires and helped cause World War II. But what if World War I never happened? No World War I means no World War II, which means no Holocaust and no Cold War. But there's a chance that an even worse war would happen later on. So would the world be better off if World War I never happened? It's hard to say. There's a good chance that another major war would have eventually broken out. Many of the problems that led to World War I still existed in the world after the war, such as the tensions between Europe's great powers and the rise of extremist groups like the Nazis. So it's possible that an even worse war would have happened if World War I didn't take place. Number 17. What if the Mongols had conquered all of Europe? The Mongol Empire was the largest contiguous land empire in history. If the Mongols had managed to conquer all of Europe, then many of the languages spoken throughout the continent today might be completely different. For example, if the Mongols had overrun Eastern Europe, then many of the Slavic languages might have been replaced with Mongolic languages. It's hard to imagine what the world would be like today if this had happened. But one thing is for sure, Europe wouldn't be the same. Number 16. What if Julius Caesar survived the Ides of March? On the Ides of March in 44 BC, Julius Caesar was assassinated by a group of senators. This event led to a series of civil wars that ultimately resulted in the fall of the Roman Republic and the rise of the Roman Empire. But what if Caesar had survived the assassination attempt? If Caesar had lived, it's likely that he would have crushed the conspiracy and restored order to Rome. This could have led to a peaceful transition to the Roman Empire, avoiding the years of civil war that followed. So, if Caesar had survived, Rome might have become an empire much sooner. Number 15. What if the Black Death never happened? The Black Death was a devastating plague that killed millions of people in Europe during the Middle Ages. It's believed that the plague actually helped cause the Renaissance because it killed so many people, it caused a labor shortage, and that led to new opportunities for many Europeans. But what if the Black Death never happened? Without the plague, it's likely that the Renaissance would have been delayed by several decades. This could have led to a very different Europe today. Number 14. What if the American Revolution failed? The American Revolution was a successful war that resulted in the creation of the United States. But what if the revolution failed and America became a part of Canada? If America was a part of Canada, it's likely that the country would exist today, but it might look very different. It's possible that the United States would have never become the superpower it is today. And it's also possible that Canada would be a much larger country. Number 13. What if Byzantium never fell? The Byzantine Empire was the eastern half of the Roman Empire, and it lasted for over 1,000 years. The empire fell in 1453 when it was conquered by the Ottoman Turks. But what if the empire had survived? If Byzantium hadn't fallen, it's likely that Eastern Roman culture would still be alive today. And who knows what kind of influence it might have had on the world. Number 12. What if the Cold War turned hot? The Cold War was a tense period in history between the USA and the USSR. The two superpowers never went to war, but they did fight each other indirectly through proxy wars. But what if the Cold War had turned hot and the two superpowers had gone to war? If the Cold War had turned into a shooting war, it's likely that the whole world would be very different today. A war between the USA and the USSR would have been devastating. It's possible that the world would be much more unstable if these two countries had gone to war. Number 11. What if Hitler never rose to power? Adolf Hitler was the dictator of Germany from 1933 to 1945. He was responsible for some of the worst atrocities in human history, including the Holocaust. But what if Hitler had never risen to power? Without Hitler, it's likely that World War II would have still happened. Other extremist leaders like Benito Mussolini and Joseph Stalin would have caused major problems in Europe. So it's possible that World War II would have happened even if Hitler never took control of Germany. Number 10. What if the Spanish Armada won? The Spanish Armada was a group of ships that were sent by King Philip II of Spain to invade England in 1588. The English fleet was smaller but more maneuverable, and they easily defeated the Spanish. But what if the Spanish had won the battle? If the Spanish Armada had defeated the English fleet, it's likely that England would be a very different country today. There's a good chance that England would be a Catholic country and speaking Spanish instead of English. Number 9. What if the Berlin Wall never fell? The Berlin Wall was a symbol of the Cold War, and it divided East and West Germany for nearly 30 years. The wall came down in 1989, but what if it never did? If the Berlin Wall is still standing, then it's likely that the Cold War still exists and divides the world today. Number 8. What if the Industrial Revolution started in China? The Industrial Revolution started in Great Britain in the late 1700s. This was a time of major technological advancement that changed the world forever. But what if the Industrial Revolution started in China? If the Industrial Revolution had started in China, then it's likely that China would be the world power today instead of the United States. It's possible that the world would look very different if China was the industrial powerhouse instead of Great Britain or the USA. Number 7. What if the Aztecs defeated Cortés? Hernán Cortés was a Spanish conquistador who defeated the Aztec Empire in 1521. This event marked the beginning of the end for many Mesoamerican cultures. But what if the Aztecs had defeated Cortés? If the Aztecs had beaten the Spanish, then it's likely that Mesoamerican empires would still exist today. It's possible that the Americas would be a very different place if the Aztecs had won the war. Number 6. What if the Apollo 11 mission failed? The Apollo 11 mission was the first time humans landed on the moon. This was a major accomplishment for the United States, and it was a defining moment of the 20th century. But what if the mission had failed and Neil Armstrong never got to say those famous words, "One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind"? If the Apollo 11 mission failed, then it's likely that the moon race would have ended in disaster. It's possible that the world would be a very different place today if humans never landed on the moon. Number 5. What if the atomic bomb was never dropped? The atomic bomb was dropped on Japan in 1945, and it ended World War II. But what if the bomb was never dropped? If the bomb was never dropped, then it's likely that World War II would have continued for several more years. This could have led to a very different world today. It's possible that the nuclear age would have started much later if the bomb was never dropped. Number 4. What if the Roman Empire never fell? The Roman Empire was one of the most powerful empires in history. It lasted for over 2,000 years and shaped Europe forever. But what if the empire never fell? If the Roman Empire is still around today, then it's likely that Europe would be a very different place. The Roman Empire would still be the dominant power in Europe, and the world would look very different if this was the case. Number 3. What if the internet was invented in the 19th century? The internet has changed the world forever. It's made communication instantaneous, and it's given us access to information like never before. But what if the internet was invented in the 19th century? If the internet was invented in the 1800s, then it's likely that the future would be very different. The world would be much more connected, and the Industrial Revolution would be even more advanced. It's possible that the world would be a very different place today if the internet was invented earlier. Number 2. What if the Titanic never sank? The sinking of the Titanic was one of the worst maritime disasters in history. But what if the ship had never sunk? If the Titanic hadn't sunk, then it's likely that early 20th century travel would be much different. The Titanic sank in 1911, and its sinking led to major changes in maritime safety regulations. But what if the Titanic had never sunk? If the Titanic never sank, then it's possible that some of these safety regulations wouldn't have been put into place, and travel would be much more dangerous today. Number 1. What if dinosaurs never went extinct? The dinosaurs roamed the Earth for over 150 million years, but 65 million years ago, they went extinct along with 75% of all species on Earth. This event allowed mammals to flourish, and eventually humans evolved. But what if the dinosaurs never went extinct? If the dinosaurs were still around today, then it's likely that humans would never have evolved. So it's possible that the world would be a very different place if the dinosaurs never went extinct. History is written by those who survived. But what if they hadn't? Which alternate timeline would you want to live in? Let me know in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe for more journeys into history's greatest mysteries.